Welcome. Thank you for coming. All right, I'm going to speak for about 20 minutes. We're going to talk about something we were talking a little bit about last night, but expanding on it. We are trying to be welfare workers, but it's a niche that not everyone recognizes, but I think it's an important niche of welfare work. And its essential nature is within the realm of sound healing. This is my dear friend Kanavji. He's a sound healer, certified therapist, and expert in so many fields, pranayama, aromatherapy, and yoga, and this is just scratching the surface. But what do I mean when we say we're sound healers? The idea of how positive sound can heal and also give a transformational experience. Sound is the most subtle of the elements. It's said that only through sound can you understand something beyond the senses, because you can hear a wisdom beyond the realm of your external perception. The senses, like the eyes and the scientific method, they can give you knowledge of this world and you can understand it, and we follow a scientific process. Even our process of bhakti is a scientific method, not just an armchair philosophy. But yet at the same time, sound has a special quality, and therefore in our scriptures, sound is again and again recommended as the method to advance. For example, in the end of Vedanta, Vedanta is the summary of all knowledge. Vedanta, Veda means knowledge, Anta means the end. So the summation of all knowledge, and the end of that, the end of all knowledge says, Anavriti Shabdat, Anavriti Shabdat. Shabda means transcendental sound. So it's saying again and again, serve transcendental sound. Again and again, serve or hear transcendental sound. Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one of our holiest scriptures, in the end it also says, all of this has been described to you to encourage you to perform this process of serving or engaging in beneficial sound vibrations. And there's many ways we do that, but it's described that the most beneficial is tad Hari Sankirtanat. Sankirtan means the power of coming together and all singing in prayer together. It has like a cumulative effect almost. So in our path, we do japa, which is chanting meditation privately or in a group, but even equally important and more important is together. And it's a form of welfare work because the vibration, it's not dependent on the melody, the tone, how beautiful our voice is. Those things can help attract, but our understanding is that the simple vibration or the uttering of the mantras has a very powerful effect almost on the subconscious level. And there's a lot of science behind this as well. And so that's why I was thinking about being welfare workers. People think welfare work is giving clothes and foods, and we do that as well. You know, we have ashram in India and we feed thousands of people every day, and you know, we've been on the news, and you know, that's what we also do. But we shouldn't relativize the importance of spiritual help. Like we talk about Christ, you know, you give them a fish, feed them for a day, but how do you feed them for a life? How do you teach them how to feed themselves, nourish themselves? So I like to say, what is the value you can put on quality of life? And what is the value you can put on your happiness? Like if I were to tell you, you can be blissful your whole life. I mean, we're not talking about like woo-woo, but the idea is, what is the value you can put on like good quality of life? It's very hard to put a number value on it. So if something can really improve your life and there's no fee associated, meaning the beauty of kirtan and mantras is that you can come and you can come together, you can go to a concert, you can pay a fee, that's not a problem. But the beauty of it is that you don't have to be, like a professional to chant the mantra. It's very beautiful. And it's not the quality of the sound that you're uttering that is the power of the mantra, it's the power of the mantra itself. So there have been studies. I was recently doing some research, and I was doing interviews in Maui on the Maui TV. And there's been studies recently, there's been many studies, Harvard and different Ivy League schools have done various studies. Two recent studies that are very interesting is NCBI, which is the National Center for Biotechnology Information, with NIH, the National Institute for Health. It did a study on this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. So for us, that's one of our main mantras, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In our kirtans, we chant, this songbook is like actually scratching the surface. We have another songbook which has no translations, and there's many more songs. So that goes more into the devotional aspect, and it's prayers and longing. There's categories of the songs we sing. Like some songs are glorification, like a praise, a gospel song. Some songs are a prayer of longing, or almost like praying to improve ourselves. But the mantra itself is so important. So they did a study on this in the NCBI, and they published it there. They said they were doing it with nursing professionals who had severe stress symptoms and some moderate to severe stress. And it was shown that by 20 minutes a day of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the cortisol levels reduced, stress, depression even, there was significant improvements. They studied it for like 45 days, 20 minutes a day. And they said that it was actually better because they, these kind of studies, they do different groups. So they said, okay, let's just do a group and they're chanting just random Sanskrit sounds. They said the benefit of actually chanting these mantras that have been like designed by the ancient sages for our benefit, it's like you don't need to reinvent the wheel works. Use the wheel. So there's many mantras that have powerful effects. I'm not minimizing their effects, but the power of just the Maha mantra itself was shown. There's been other studies that show this as well. And so, how do we get the quality of life? That's the point. It's like, there's different types of what we call happiness, but a lot of the happiness people think of as happiness it's a kind of like what we call Raja happiness. Raja gun is like, I'm trying to squeeze out the enjoyment from the moment of my life or whatever. And so it's like, I want to be happy, and so I'm going to be happy. And it's like, I'm going to fight for my happiness. I'm going to go to Disneyland and I'm going to enjoy. And so like the kids love the idea, and then you're a parent, Disney World, standing in line for 4 hours for a ride, and you're sweating in 90-degree weather in Orlando. And you're like, why aren't I happy yet? And the kids are fighting, and you're like, not to put it down, like go for it. But the idea is you want to squeeze the happiness out of the moment. But in our scriptures, it's described like scratching an itch. And you scratch the itch, and then the rash gets worse, and you scratch the itch, and the rash gets worse, and you're always looking for amplified states of happiness. So Krishna, the Gita says, without shanti or peace, you can't really be happy. So that's why I said we're welfare workers trying to bring people to a place of shanti and then internal peace. And then the beauty of that is that you can actually become happy in any circumstance. And I'm trying to experience that. We talk about it. Remember when we were in Florida, I was saying we were about to catch a plane, and someone was picking us up. It was me and him. And it was like an hour trip to the airport. We were in Gainesville, and we're going 2 hours to Orlando. And we were saying, okay, are they going to come and pick us up on time? Because this is the first time we didn't know where they were going to come. I said, you know what? It's beautiful weather. We have friends we're staying with. If they don't come, we'll stay a few more days, get a different ticket. We're happy in this moment because we're content. Oh, but what if we miss the next thing? We are taking care of our responsibilities. If someone else doesn't meet, we shouldn't blame them, shouldn't be mad at them. Right? Oh, you didn't come on time. Whatever's meant to be is going to be. Like we say, like what's going to happen is going to happen. But that's why also Krishna says in the Gita, when you're down, don't be too down. And when you're high, don't be too high. Learn how to be equipoised. That's like one of the main lessons of the Gita. He says, Stita dhir munir uchyate. Try to be level-minded. Because what happens, sometimes you get elated, really happy, and then you just can't handle it, and you just go, you sometimes commit the worst mistakes. And then when you get depressed, you just like wallow in that. So understand that the mind is also like our science, the yoga science. The mind is like a pendulum almost. And it swings between acceptance and rejection. What we call in Sanskrit is like sankalpa vikalpa. I like this, I don't like this. Or this is good, this is bad. And this is the cause of a lot of the duality in the world and a lot of the conflict in the world. And the gunas are actually, unless we're coming to a higher state of being, we're actually like puppets and pulled by the strings, which are the gunas. The gunas is Sanskrit modes of nature. The essential three modes of nature is goodness, passion, and ignorance. And certain things we take affect us. Like we can say, people say, why don't you take alcohol and take drugs? There's nothing wrong with that necessarily. It's just what mode do you want to be on? Like, I listened to Sadhguru talk. It was very interesting. Someone was saying like to him, oh, I want to get high, I want to get high. He said, okay, no problem, but I want to get higher. Like, for example, if you were to go to an airline and the pilot comes on the PA and he's obviously stoned, I'm so high, but it's like, would you be happy with that pilot flying your plane? Because it's in a mode what we call tama. It's in a lower mode where it's dulling. It's giving you some happiness, perhaps experience, but it's limiting your spiritual potential. You're putting a cap on it. We say through the yogic process, you don't have to use these means that are gross. It's like a physical means. There's a spiritual means to reach a better state even. He said if you have a surgeon who's doing heart surgery and they come and they're high as a kite, you're going to say, please doctor, once you're sober, then that's why Krishna says be sober. Again and again in Sastra, he says, in so many verses, he says try to become sober. And Arjuna asks Krishna, what is the nature of a sober person? How do I identify them? So if someone's going to do open heart surgery, we want them to be sober. So the idea is the gunas, we take these things in through our environment and through who we associate with and through our own nature, and then it affects us, and then it limits. We think like we are the agent and we are the doer. There's another thing Krishna says in the Gita. To think I am the doer is ignorance, when really you're being pulled by your urges and by your habits and your nature. And so you're doing things and you're reacting to things and you think, oh, I'm the doer. But you don't know how much you're being controlled compared to how much you're free. And so that's why they say, beyond even the benefits of mantra meditation for depression and anxiety, the benefits of also ultimately like awakening or enlightenment, freeing the mind. Mantra means mantrayati iti mantra. Every word in Sanskrit has like a definition that uses the words. So mantra, like aparad, an offense means to go away from love. So we talk a lot about offenses and avoiding offenses. People are like, oh, offense this, that's an offense, that's an offense. So to do this is offense. But what it means is to go away from love. So it means anything you do, if I'm like yelling at you and abusing you, that's an offense, not because it's like, oh, that's bad. It's because it's not loving. So when we're, like for example, when we're serving the deities. Should I have another? Yeah, sure. We're going away from love. So it means, the reason I'm saying that is because the word Sanskrit for offense is aparad. And who we worship here, her name... Krishna is sitting next to Krishna, her name is Radha. Sitting next to Krishna, her name is Radha, and it means love. She who loves the most. So Radha means to run towards someone with attraction. So she appeared and she ran towards Krishna with love, so her name is Radha. So to go against Radha means to go against love, so that's an offense. So mantra means mantrayati iti mantra. That which frees the mind, that is a mantra. So that's why we should sometimes reflect and think, these thoughts that are going through my mind, is that just, it's my mind talking, and it's like a filter or a sponge that's absorbed so many different things. Like some people, you're glued to the news all day, this channel, that channel, the other channel, and then that just buzzes around your mind, you go to sleep and you wake up. Those aren't your thoughts. So we say, people don't have ideas, ideas have people. And so we should learn how to deprogram, meaning learn how to choose your thoughts, choose your company. That's what you're doing in your ashram, like in your community. That's what, and we go out and we meet people, but it's also like a sacred space means a place where you've mindfully chosen good company, good thoughts, good practices that uplift you. And so what's the value to that? You know, we can't put a value to it. That's why we don't put a value to it. And we say, we just give, we're welfare workers. And if people's hearts are touched, then they also learn to give forward. That's our mood. Like Gopa Mataji, our senior like nun, she's been in the temple since the early 70s. Her mood is like, pay it forward. Like anyone can come stay for free. But if they like it, then give it forward to the next person so the facility is maintained. You know, it's a mood of like genuinely just wanting to help people. That's what for us especially, like as a monk path. Our mood is like give without expectation. Because you can't put a value to the service of freeing someone from samsara. Because ultimately, our faith is, you know, the soul has this unique potential to be in a transcendental state of being, whether in this realm or another realm. Ultimately, our aspiration isn't even for liberation in our path. Our Chaitanya, he said, I don't really want liberation, I don't want enjoyment, I don't want any reward, I just want to be your devotee life after life, wherever I may be. But you can reach what's called a living liberated state. That's what we call Jivan Mukta. And it says it in the Bhagavatam, that a life of constant service and dedication to God and by God's command serving others, that's what it means. Really we say we serve others, serve humanity, serve all beings, understanding they're part and parcel of us, like we're all connected, but we're doing it to please, you know, who we're looking up to almost. Like we say watering the root of the tree. That's our practice. So welfare work, a lot of people think welfare work is watering every tree. We say welfare work is watering the root of the tree. And the whole tree of being will be nourished and replenished, rejuvenated. So for us, welfare work means serving everyone, but serving them to their highest potential. So we say sound healing, right? Because sound has the power to transcend the physical boundaries of this world. We can speak about things beyond it if it's from a realized sage who's seen that. So one of our famous verses is Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padam Shada Pashyanti Suraya Diviva Chakshuratatam Tat Viprasa Vipranyavo Jagri Bangsa Samindate Vishnu Jap Paramam Padam. We chant this before any ceremony. Why? It means those who are the real seers, who have seen the higher realms, they can speak that to us, and if we develop faith and then follow the method, we can also come to see it. So people also misconstrue faith. They say, oh, faith is just like, oh, you're just blind, you're foolish, you're suckered. Faith is the mechanism by which you can realize things. When you realize it, then you don't depend on faith anymore. But they say to go into school, you have to have some initial faith in the teachers or in the syllabus, otherwise you're not going to pay attention, you're not going to learn anything, you're not going to follow anything. So we say faith is the mechanism to enable you to enter into a field of knowledge and realize it. So it's very beautiful. So what we say is, if we hear from a seer, that's why we put a lot of value on like a real guru, a bona fide, we always will say bona fide guru, find a bona fide guru. It means find someone who's actually can help you, and they can only give what they have. It's not enough to just say, oh, here's what it is in the book. It's like everyone can read a book. But someone who's actually seen it and who can impress upon you the conviction, but not only that, but like the power of the it's a very interesting thing, and I'll conclude with this, a thought. But there's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavatam. What is the value of like a sadhu, which is like a saintly person? Whereas like everyone, because we could say like, it sounds like a very like hierarchical thing. Oh, find like a saintly person. It's like, we're all saints. We're all demons. I said last night, no one's a demon. No one's a bad person. There's bad qualities or tendencies. But essentially, we say every soul is eternally pure. So I'm sorry to like jump around a lot of topics, but our philosophy is that every soul is eternally pure. So there's no such thing as like a sinful, bad soul. There's a sinful tendency, which also means a violent act, which is why we're vegetarian, or some people are vegan, because like we're trying to avoid violence. And that's the root of sin. Just like we talked about, offense is going against love, sin is going against affection. So, while all beings are equal by soul, those who have come to a higher state of being, they can help uplift others. And what's the evidence of that in our scriptures? There's a beautiful verse. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido. It's in the Bhagavatam. Which means that the discourses, like when you go to a guru, you sit in front and you listen and you hear. And if you receive that, mama virya samvido, this is Krishna stating this, my power is invested in their speech. And so I can transmit my power. That's why we say to be pure-hearted is important. To be without expectation, to just want to help people, to be a welfare worker. Because then you can become, if you're pure-hearted, you can become like Krishna's flute. Why is Krishna's flute so important? Because it just transmits his message. It doesn't convolute the message. It doesn't put a block in the message, then it can't be a flute. No. Oh, Lord, whatever you want to distribute, I'll be your vessel. So whatever you've spoken or whatever you inspire. So that's why we say his power is transmitted through his messenger. So his flute is like a messenger. And so he said, my power is invested in that. So not anyone can be a vessel for that kind of message, but that's the most powerful sound vibration. That's what we call Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound. And that's the greatest welfare work. Because that has the power to not just make us like have a great life. Like I said in the beginning, what's the value of like having a great life? You say, I can put all my money into having a great life, the best life. That's what we're all striving for. But what's the value of like becoming truly enlightened and truly liberated or truly in that transcendent state? You can't put a value on it. So therefore we don't put a value on it. We say just give it freely. And then if you appreciate it, give it forward. So, satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. That enters into the heart and creates a spiritual transformation. It's described to be like a blossoming. So our process is what we call the blossoming of divine consciousness. From the seed state to the sprouting, to the budding, to the fully blossomed consciousness state. So we find that there's 5 stages of blossoming consciousness.